This is Michael Popok with the Legal AF Hot Take. I don't believe the Melania defense Donald Trump is trying to raise in the New York criminal election interference case, and I don't believe the jury is either. Let's talk about the Melania defense. Let's talk about what they said in opening to the jury on the Trump side. Let's talk about Hope Hicks and her testimony and why it does not corroborate the Melania defense. And then I'm going to read to you from the statement of facts back in April of 2023 by the Manhattan District Attorney, which is effectively their playbook. If you want to know where the prosecution is going with their witnesses, look to the statement of facts filed in April of 2023 with the court and given to Trump. They are following it like a script, and I'm going to give you the script section that deals with the quote-unquote Melania defense and why it doesn't hold any water. First, let me break down what it is. In order for me to attack it and criticize it, I've got to explain it to you what it is. The Melania defense is what it's been referred to, is that Donald Trump was not trying to commit election interference when he paid off Stormy Daniels, or Michael Cohen paid off Stormy Daniels for Donald Trump. He was trying to protect his family, particularly Melania, whose opinion he cared about. And therefore, there's no second crime, which is required in New York to make this a felony. Right? It's a two-step process in New York to take a business record fraud misdemeanor, and we've got 34 counts of that in the case, and ratchet it up to a felony. You need that the business record fraud, which was writing down in the books and records of the Trump organization that the payment related to Stormy Daniels was not to pay Stormy Daniels, but was rather to reimburse Michael Cohen for legal fees. I'm going to give you all the, well, let's just call them flies in the ointment for Donald Trump that don't track with the Melania defense, including things that Hope Hicks had to say. And more importantly, what Michael Cohen will eventually say and what has already been said by Keith Davidson, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels. Let me focus like a laser on why the Melania defense. I was just protecting my family. I didn't care about the election. I didn't care about the campaign. Doesn't hold water and isn't for this jury, I assure you, who is taking, copious notes and sitting at attention for every witness the prosecution has put on. We're only on day 11 in the prosecution's case in chief. The main fact that blows apart, there's so many of them. I give you about half a dozen right here on this hot take. But the main fact that shows that Donald Trump was not interested in protecting Melania. I mean, all right, I'll buy some of he's scared of Melania. Melania has extracted a couple of increased prenuptial financial arrangements in order for her to be the first lady, in order for her to move from New York to Washington, in order for her to be involved with the campaign. I mean, that's been well reported. Melania is transactional. She doesn't do anything without trying to benefit and feather her own nest and that of her son, the only son she has, or child she has with Donald Trump, Barron. Okay, so it's that Melania he's quote unquote trying to protect. Side note, does she look like somebody that needs protection? I mean, she's more, I hate to be rude, she's more reptilian than she is fragile. And I don't think she needs protection. I don't think the world thinks she needs protection. More importantly, I don't think the jury thinks so either. The woman that traipses up the steps of the Air Force One with a jacket that reads, "I don't care, do you?" during, a crisis at the border in which children are separated from their parents and put in cages. I'm not sure that's the kind of warm and fuzziness that juries like in their alleged, I'm trying to protect my wife from a bad sex story. Okay, so let's put away the human dimension, which is going to enter the jury's mind anyway. Factually, if that were true, the Melania defense, then why did Donald Trump tell Michael Cohen, and it's already come out in evidence even before Michael Cohen takes the stand, why did Trump say to Cohen, let's delay paying Stormy Daniels at all until after the election, because if we win the election, we don't have to pay her. So let me get this straight. The embarrassment and protection of Melania sort of drops to zero as a purpose after he's president because Melania won't be hurt by the sex story anymore. I mean, you see where this is going, right? If it was so, if he's so paternal that Trump needs to protect his wife, why does that need for protection stop after he wins the presidency? He doesn't care about the sex stories then? The wife doesn't care about the sex stories then? Let me read to you in particular from the script that I keep talking about, which is the script from the statement of facts, a little referred to document back in April of 2023, really lays out the roadmap precisely and the script for the prosecutors of what they intend to prove at trial. They gave it to the prosecutor, they gave it to the defense, and they gave it, of course, to the public. When we get to paragraphs 16 through really almost till the end. Here's why the Melania defense doesn't work, because the prosecutors will prove the following facts with various witnesses, and they've already started to. Paragraph 16 of the statement of facts says that about a month before the election, on October 7th, 2016, news broke that Trump defendant had been caught on tape saying to the host of Access Hollywood, "I just start kissing the women. It's like a magnet. I grab them by the genitals. You can't do anything. I can get away with it. I'm a celebrity," all that. Shortly after paragraph 17, shortly after the Access Hollywood tape became public, the editor-in-chief of AMI, which is David Pecker, contacted another woman who is Stormy Daniels, who alleged she had a sexual encounter with the defendant while he was married. Not a romantic relationship, a sexual encounter. All right. And the AMI CEO told the Mr. Pecker to notify lawyer A. Right. And lawyer A is Michael Cohen. So in paragraph 18, then Pecker connects with Cohen with woman number two's lawyer B. That's Keith Davidson, who just testified. Cohen then negotiated a deal with Davidson to secure woman number two's silence and prevent the disclosure of the damaging information in the final weeks before the presidential election. Now, here's the bombshell that destroys the Melania defense. And this is what the prosecutors will prove, and I'll tell you how. Now, paragraph 19, the defendant directed lawyer A, that's Cohen, to delay making a payment to woman 2, Stormy Daniels, as long as possible. Trump instructed Cohen that if they could delay the payment until after the election, they could avoid paying altogether, because at that point, it would not matter if the story became public. Right. It wouldn't matter to the election, not about embarrassing Melania, as reflected in emails and text messages between Cohen, lawyer B, Keith Davidson, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, and the AMI editor-in-chief, David Pecker. Cohen attempted to delay making payment as long as possible. Ultimately, paragraph 20, with pressure mounting and the election approaching, the defendant agreed to the payoff and directed lawyer A to proceed. Trump agreed to the payoff and directed Cohen to proceed. Right? And then Cohen discusses the deal with Trump and Trump's CFO, who's now in jail, Alan Weisselberg. The defendant Trump did not want to make the $130,000 payment himself, and he asked Cohen and told the CFO to find a way to make the payment. And after discussing various ways, they agreed that Cohen would make the payment. That's the conspiracy, right? And then Cohen goes off, sets up a bank account, sets up a company called Essential Consultants, LLC, on October the 26th, and transfers $131,000 from a private home equity line of his at First Republic Bank. We've already heard the testimony from First Republic Bank's person related to Michael Cohen. Now, that set of facts that the prosecutors are midway through proving in front of this jury destroys the Melania defense. I don't care what Hope Hicks said on the stand. On balance, the Melania defense is dead. You know, the best that they got out of cross-examination of Hope Hicks yesterday was that Donald Trump admires Melania. Donald Trump cares about her opinion. Donald Trump was also interested, I'm sure as a byproduct, to quote unquote protect Melania from the embarrassing story or protect himself. But she did nothing to undercut the other evidence in the case already, particularly what's come out with Keith Davidson, and David Pecker, and will be reinforced by Michael Cohen down the road, that Donald Trump, in his eminent cheapness, decided he was going to try to screw over Stormy Daniels, how ironic, and not pay her as long as he won the presidency, which he did. So he directed, and this is testimony that came out through Keith Davidson, saying that he couldn't get Michael Cohen on the phone. Michael Cohen was screwing with him. Michael Cohen was delaying payment as long as he could, and it was obvious. And that Davidson finally had to tell him, if you don't make payment by a date certain, like tomorrow, my client is not going to abide by this agreement and is going to go public. And then the payment was made. So Donald Trump didn't care about Melania based on that set of facts that the prosecutors have already, I would say, 3/4 of the way through proving in front of the jury. So this sideshow that came up during day 11 of the trial about a teary-eyed, I have to testify against my former boss, it's so awkward. Let's put Hope Hicks firmly in her place, okay? She had no experience as she testified to be a press secretary. She thought Donald Trump was joking when he said, I'm going to make you my press secretary for the campaign. So she's inexperienced. She's like 25 or whatever she was at the time, has very little experience, certainly not one to be running a presidential campaign's press office, right? She got the job for whatever reason. We don't really know why, although she is a Melania lookalike. And now, from the reporting after her teary-eyed thing, she's going off and marrying one of the leaders of Goldman Sachs. So she doesn't really care about this case or Donald Trump any longer. She's not going to work in his administration again, I don't think. Although I'm sure she's trying to do damage control for herself. So listen, I thought it was a powerful moment when she cried. Juries are very attentive to witnesses who appear to be expressing some sort of emotion. It looked like she was crying because she felt guilty about having to destroy Donald Trump's Melania defense at best. So the other things that don't fit with the Melania defense is, why do you falsely record, or Donald Trump have falsely recorded in his business records, that the payments ultimately to Stormy Daniels through Michael Cohen were to reimburse Michael Cohen for legal expenses? Not only reimburse him, but to ensure that he did not have to pay income tax on income that was really not income to him. Because remember, this is a reimbursement. This is not income to him, but it's being listed as income to Michael Cohen, which gives him IRS tax problems for having to pay taxes on income. So he got a true up payment. He got double the amount that he laid out for Stormy Daniels, plus a little kicker bonus on the side from Donald Trump. Does anybody think the cheap Donald Trump is going to pay $400,000 to make a $130,000 payment because he's not trying to hide it? Because he's trying to hide it from Melania? So he's going to overpay Michael Cohen, who apparently he doesn't like any longer. He's fallen out of love with Michael Cohen. So he overpaid him by multiples of 3 times in order to hide it from Melania. He had it falsely recorded on his books and records of the Trump Organization. Why? Because Melania goes thumbing through the pages of the Trump Organization ledgers and books and records to see how things are being recorded. You see why this doesn't make sense for the jury? All right. So you've got the facts about delaying the payment. Let me just win. We don't have to pay her. Well, that doesn't seem to be protecting Melania. This convoluted Rube Goldberg contraption of getting Stormy Daniels paid, not directly from Donald Trump, because as Michael Cohen will testify eventually, and they've started that with the prosecutors, he set up a day or two after the meeting with Donald Trump an LLC, a limited liability company, shell company, for the sole purpose of making the payment to Stormy Daniels. This company never existed before. Then he goes to his bank and takes out a home equity loan. Then he lays out the home equity loan and makes the payment. The other fly in the ointment for Donald Trump's Melania defense is that then how does he explain the payments that were made by David Pecker directly? Because he told Hope Hicks, and this is what Hope Hicks relayed on the stand during her testimony, that she said she did not believe when Trump told her, isn't Michael Cohen a nice guy? He did that out of the goodness of his heart. I had no involvement in it, completely selfless act, but he's a very, very charitable guy. And that did not ring true for Hope Hicks. She said, I never found Michael Cohen to be selfless. I never found Michael Cohen to be charitable. He's always trying to grab credit for himself. So that was even Hope Hicks had to testify. under direct examination and recross that she didn't believe Donald Trump when he said that Michael Cohen made the payments on his own. Right, because Trump made the payments through Michael Cohen in the conspiracy, which was started with David Pecker, and then they changed the books and records. These are not things the jury is going to believe that Donald Trump did to protect Melania. So we're back to the destruction of the Melania defense and Hope Hicks's role in that. So you've got the LLC issues. Then how do you explain, back to the Melania defense, how do you explain the payments made to Karen McDougal that were made by David Pecker? The only reason that Michael Cohen, and David Pecker already testified to this, that he made the payment through his home equity line to Stormy Daniels instead of David Pecker for the National Enquirer, which was the original conspiracy plan, is because Donald Trump didn't pay. He's a cheapskate, and he stiffed David Pecker and didn't pay the National Enquirer back. And David Pecker said, I'm not doing that again. He laid out $150,000 for Karen McDougal out of a charity to help Donald Trump in the election, not to help Donald Trump with Melania. Even David Pecker said this was about the election, that he got complimented. Back to the Melania defense destruction. David Pecker says he got complimented by Donald Trump. He got brought to the White House, invited to the inauguration. He got called out by Donald Trump, who said, these are people that helped me win the election. Right. The only reason Cohen had to pay is because Pecker wouldn't. That had nothing to do with Melania. So, and Melania, by the way, would probably help the Melania defense if Melania actually showed up for some event in front of the jury. Now, it hasn't happened yet. Could it happen? Sure. There's another 3 or 4 weeks of trial. Could Melania suddenly, if I had any control over Melania, and if I'm Donald Trump or the lawyers, I would have had Melania there while Hope Hicks was on the stand. That would have been a moment, right? Then you can kind of lean into the story about the protection of Melania. And there's Melania, standing by her man, sitting behind Donald Trump, take off the glasses, and she'll sit there and she'll stare at Hope Hicks. You want to see waterworks? Watch Hope Hicks if Melania showed up. But they didn't want to take that risk because they don't have any control over Melania, and Melania doesn't believe she's being protected. She's offended. She's disgusted, reporting goes. She wants Donald Trump to take the stand and waive his Fifth Amendment privilege and defend her honor, so the story goes. But the Melania defense, forget about it. So all of these facts, most of which have already started to come in through Keith Davidson, the First Republic Bank person, documents, emails, receipts, bank statements, and the like, and David Pecker's testimony, have destroyed already. It's already, for me, the Melania defense is already laying in tatters at the feet of the defense. And I don't think they're going to be able to continue to lean into it, although they really have nothing else as they move through this trial. We'll continue to follow the trial on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.